this report by the Committee on Agriculture. Madam Speaker, as I support this report, I want to appreciate the diligence of a young Kenyan from Bomet who has actually educated us on what is going on in this country. The reason why we have seeds which are prone to diseases is simply because of failure by institutions to perform their work. We have an institution called KEFIS, Madam Speaker, which is supposed to provide a service. It is also supposed to regulate seeds in this country. But it appears that for 12 years, a disease has attacked the basic, in fact, the food that sustains this economy. And for those 12 years, they have done nothing about it. To a point where in 2021, Madam Speaker, Bomet County lost almost 90% of its maize crop. And yet we have institutions that collect billions of shillings to be able to ensure that our farmers are protected. Madam Speaker, these are the kind of things that make some of us propose legislations to be able to separate some of these tasks that they are given. And I want to tell the Honorable Kenyan who brought this petition that this petition will not just go like any other petition. Because, you know, most of the time when Kenyans come and petition here, just because you're given the right by the Constitution to petition, it is quite seldom that action is taken, or whatever the recommendation we give are fully implemented. But this is one of those petitions, Madam Speaker, that is actionable, that the ones that we can be able to implement because it touches on our own existence. If you tell the people of Rift Valley that they cannot be able to grow maize, and I had my good friend Emel saying that because of all these disadvantages and because of all these challenges, he's now telling his constituents to try and diversify. I understand where he's coming from. But as a farmer like me, I have to grow maize because apart from feeding my own family with the maize and my community, I also have to feed my cows with that maize. But the truth of the matter is that I cannot feed my cows with maize that have got a disease, because I'll pass that disease to other people who are not even there. So what is the neatest thing to do, Madam Speaker? The Committee on Agriculture has done its task. All the distinguished senators who spoke here have also supported this committee and emphasized on the findings of the committee. Agriculture is devolved. It is about time that county governments ensure that their field officers across rural homes to guarantee that the seeds which are sold by Kenya Seed, the seeds which are sold by all these agrovets are certified. Madam Speaker, within the next few weeks, I'll be introducing an amendment to the Seed and Plant Variety Act. And this is the Plant Variety Act. And I'll be seeking to introduce a standard-based seed registration system to facilitate timely approval of seed varieties. Madam Speaker, the problem we have now is that KEFIS is headed by a cartel, Madam Speaker. When you find basic seeds approval process taking years, who are we protecting? We are definitely not protecting the farmers. We are protecting people who introduce seeds here, maize, beans, and do not want any other variety to be introduced that can be able to adjust to the different changes of our climate. Madam Speaker, my bill, which is already now being sent for pre-publication, will deal with these issues. And I was so happy when I read this report, because it is like we're intertwined. We were sitting down with the Committee on Agriculture and looking at the things, the prayers. If you read the prayers of this petitioner, it's very simple. They're saying, number one, please make sure that any seeds which are sold for maize are seeds which do not have any diseases. Madam Speaker, when I introduce my bill, you will see that I've taken that into consideration. Because it is now imperative that we now try to separate. Because a lot of seeds that comes into this country are coming either from abroad. We have KEFIS, which should provide a service. But I'm a firm believer that KEBS, which is fully equipped, can be able to ensure that the seeds, the certified seeds, are actually good for this economy. Because the problem is that when you have one government entity that is tasked by approving seeds variety, inspecting those seeds varieties, believe it or not, there's always room for mischief because they know they are, quote unquote, the alpha and the omega. They are the ones who make all the decisions. So it is time for us to listen to what is happening on the ground to make sure that any seeds, varieties that are sold in this country, are seeds that, one, are clearly labeled, and you can be able to follow them. And we should actually now ensure that whoever sells any seeds that have got some form of disease, they pay. The petitioner is seeking a form of support, compensation. You know, we need to encourage, we need to educate our farmers that there are insurance policies that can protect their crops. Madam Speaker, we are all farmers here, I believe. The distinguished senator from Bomet, Council Hilary Sigei, recently harvested his wheat. But because we had a crisis in the country, all he did was to store that wheat until we find a situation where we can be able to sell. And all that was brought by the fact that when this Council of Ministers are sitting down, they don't really have a picture of what is happening on the ground. So decision that is affecting our people is not made locally, it is made elsewhere, so that our people continue to suffer. It is important, Madam Speaker, that now, before any seeds are imported from outside the country to be used locally, we encourage innovation to be able to develop local seeds. Number two, before any wheat is imported, we make sure that there is absolutely no wheat in this country. Before any maize is imported, we make sure that there is absolutely no maize in this country. Because I dare say, Madam Speaker, that sometimes, because of business interest, some people will try to sell seeds that will ensure that there's a shortage of maize in the country so that they can be able to import millions of metric tons into this country. Because we are a consumer economy, we must now change to becoming a producer economy. We should be producing and selling. It is a shame, Madam Speaker, that now, because of all these challenges that we are facing in the wheat sector, Kenya is only producing, listen to this, Madam Speaker, out of the 100% wheat consumed in this country, the wheat that we produce in Narok, in Uasin Gishu, in Nyandarua County is only 5 to 8%. Yet, the millers here cannot even mop up that 8 to 5%. They will still go and import from outside the country. As we speak today, Madam Speaker, and I'm happy, let me really appreciate the work of the new Cabinet Secretary in charge of Agriculture, Mutahi Kagwe, because he was able to listen and to see where the problem is. And he said, guys, I know you have 260,000 metric tons of wheat in the pot. But guess what? My farmers in Narok, my farmers in Uasin Gishu, my farmers in Laikipia have got about 320,000 bags. You need to go buy all those bags first before you can be able to be given approval to offload the ship. You can pay the demurrage as you wish. They're all crying. But we just have to be our brother's keepers. We have to make sure that we protect the people who give us an opportunity to serve them here. So this gentleman, Hillary, from Bomet, should awaken our desire to help uplift the standard of living of our people. And this should actually be very dear to all of us. It should be something that we take seriously. Because if those people are not happy, trust me, you are the ones who will get all those phone calls saying, help us. So, Madam Speaker, it is imperative, and I'm happy that the committee is fully recommending, that one, the Ministry of Agriculture must develop a support mechanism for these rural farmers. That support mechanism cannot be left only to the Ministry of Agriculture. It also has to go down to the county governments. I'm happy that all of us are thinking that we should introduce more field, what are they called? Field technicians. Agricultural extension officers. But as we can, when we were growing up, it was fun being a kid in this country. Because you will find these agricultural field officers coming. In fact, back then, when we were growing wheat, you would go to school knowing that there's a crop here, there's somebody already coming to buy that crop. So even if you don't have school fees, the fact that you have a crop in the field gives you a ticket to an education. Now, nobody is sure of what they plant, whether they'll be able to harvest it. Madam Speaker, you should have seen the frustration and the anger of those wheat farmers in Narok. When I attempted to talk to them and ask them, guys, what's going on? They were like, where were you when we were suffering? Little did we know that we have things that we must now ask ourselves on how we educate our farmers. Because the biggest problem we have is that we are not educating our farmers. When in Nyeri County farmers are complaining about tea, coffee, unless the distinguished senator from Nyeri goes there and educate them, to tell you the truth, maybe the county government may not invest in educating those people. So since we have this national platform, let us ensure that the decisions we make here are decisions that will trickle down. Madam Speaker, this house is a house of union. It unites the entire 47 counties on issues that are affecting our people. I was listening to the distinguished senator from Tana River talking about the compensation of the farmers there. You know, I think the way we are busy drumming up support for SHA and the way we are saying we want universal health care is the way now we should now start drumming up support for food security. In fact, I wish the National Assembly would be listening to this, because we should now be encouraging industries to be established in rural areas, and we waive 100% taxes for innovation, because that is the only way. Madam Speaker, if you have industries across the 47 counties, you will encourage more people to develop new seeds, to be able to grow crops. There's absolutely no reason as to why I should be buying maize from Mombasa. Unga ya ugali from Mombasa, yet I'm growing maize in Narok. How many people are in Narok, Madam Speaker? Over 1.4 million people. That economy in itself should be able to figure out how it can be able to sustain itself. And the only way to sustain itself is sometimes it might behoove us, and I'm glad that the distinguished senator from Bungoma is listening. It behooves us now to think about how do we devolve all these services. If it is a seed inspectory service, let's take it to Bungoma. Let's take it to Narok. Let's take it to Bomet. So that immediately we realize that there is a disease which is affecting seeds. Action is taken locally. But now, if you go to Karen, or is it Kajiado County, and to go to Kefis there, before they send somebody to the ground, maybe you might be asked to give, fuel, for them to be able to send somebody to go and actually, look at the disease. And this is not only in crops, but it's also even in our livestock. Madam Speaker, did you know that for them to test these pesticides, and not only pesticides, these parasites, the ones for spraying cows, they will go to Transmara County. That's where they'll do all the testing. So if you have a cow in Bungoma County that has got a tick-borne disease, if a new parasite has been brought that can be able to help solve that problem, unless the testings are done in Transmara County, in Kilgoris, there's no way you can be able to use that parasite. So I think we need to divorce ourselves from this old mentality and control and bureaucracy and open the field. So I hope that, as I conclude, that the Agriculture Committee will support my bill once the bill is tabled, because it goes into the core of this petition, so that at least this Parliament can be remembered as having solved the problem of that maize disease. Finally, Madam Speaker, I think it is time that KEFIS mop up all the seeds, maize seeds, which are causing that disease. There's no way you can have one seed for 12 years. That disease is brought every year, there's something wrong with it, unless there's somebody protecting it. So, Kenya Seed and all these other companies that are selling seeds must now look at that seed. Well, now, you know, I think, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of seeds is coming from Kitale. But I'm not seeing those diseases in Kitale. I wonder what is going on. Is it the pesticides that we use that is causing those diseases? Because seeds, maize seeds are grown in Kitale. When they come there, they are certified that they are good. But once they are planted in Narok, in Bomet, they have diseases. Is it the pesticides? Is it that we have really corrupted our soils to a point where any crop you put, it just dies? Those are the questions that we must ask ourselves. Otherwise, I fully support this report, and I hope that the Agriculture Committee, even though we don't have an implementation committee, will follow through to make sure that all your recommendations, which are sound, can actually be implemented. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator for Bomet, Wakili Hilary Sigei.
Madam Speaker, let me begin by appreciating the chairperson of the Agriculture Committee, the Honorable Senator Wakoli, who